Good morning, everyone. Welcome to today's Jaatre. Today's Jaatre is going to be interesting and fun with Mr. Saurabh, the uncle. He is from West Bengal and his company's name is Monosha Biotech. And from his childhood, he loved snakes, like me. Even I love snakes. And now he has a passion to work with snakes, and he has a job to make medicines with snakes venom. So would you like to say anything, Mr. Saurabh?
Good morning, very good morning, and thank you very much for this warm welcome and introduction which you gave me, Yusra. So nice of you. Uh, you actually summed up what I do, so I don't have anything else to say. So are we all present? I mean, see, I would like to keep this session to be a very interactive one because I would be able to say so many things about snakes, venom, and all. But that's not important. What is important is that whoever we are present on this platform, if you have any questions for me, because let me first give you a small introduction apart from what Yusra actually gave. My name, as she said, is Saurabh Roy. I founded an organization called Monosha Biotech. Now, this is one small sentence which makes Monosha Biotech that we have formed it. But prior to that, there's a long history in the sense. Since my very early childhood days, I was very fond of wildlife, nature. I used to spend a lot of time in nature and wildlife, more so with snakes. I love snakes. Now, if you ask me this question that why is it that out of so many animals I was fond of snakes, I also do not have a specific answer to this because this question has been asked to me several times. But possibly, if I go back into my childhood days, I'll give you some glimpse of my childhood. My grandfather was a doctor. Now, although I'm born and brought up in Calcutta, absolutely in the heart of the city, but every weekend I used to go with my grandparents to the farmhouse. There's a farmhouse which we used to go to that farmhouse every weekend. Now, that's where I fell in love with nature, plants, ponds, fish, birds, butterfly, everything. I found them very fascinating. They live their own lives, but they are not interfering with each other. So these are factors about wild animals which attracted me. One thing which I noticed when I was like, yeah, 5, 6, 7 years old, that the village where the farmhouse was located, in that village, people used to fear snakes a lot. And the moment a snake was sighted, the villagers would rush and kill the snake. So this was an observation which I made during my childhood days. Now, when I would not say confronted, when I asked the villagers that why is it that you are killing the snakes, the answer which I got, and that was a common answer, that snakes would bite and we will die. So then I used to counter question them that the snake has not yet bitten you. So in anticipation that the snake is going to bite you, you're killing the snake. They said, no, 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 no. The snakes are very venomous, and if they bite, we would die. Now, when I started growing in my class, the schools and all school, and I started learning more of science and about the environment. I found that snakes play a very important role in maintaining the environmental balance. Because as we all know, snakes they have a favorite food item, which are the rats. Now the rats, they spread a lot of disease. The food crops which are being produced by the farmers, the rats consume a lot of the food crops. So snakes are a natural way, Mother Nature's gift of controlling the rat population. So when I learned this, then with this added knowledge during my school days, I used to go back to the villages and I would say that the snakes play a very important role in maintaining the environmental balance. Why is it that you are killing snakes? But they were adamant and they would kill snakes. Then I came to know, after a few years, I came to know that there are many villages where villagers have a sad story to say about snakes and snake bite death. There has been some sort of a snake bite and people have died. So, like this. So then I could actually get the understanding that why villagers hold a grudge against snakes, because they have lost their family members. Now, when prior to that, I was blaming the villagers. I was blaming the villagers that why do you kill the poor snakes? But now when I got the answer from them that there are many villagers, many relatives of theirs and friends who have died of snake bite, that was the time when I realized that yes, this is possibly one of the reasons. Because let us understand one thing. However, well we know that the snakes play a very important role in the ecology, maintaining the environmental balance. But God forbid, if some of my family members has been bitten by a snake and he has died or she has died, then for the rest of my life I'm going to hold a grudge against snakes. In any pretext, I get an excuse, I'll kill the snake. So I stopped blaming the villagers. Then what happened was that, so but somehow I, since my childhood days, I wanted to strike a balance as to how by stop how can I actually work towards stopping the killing of the snakes. Later on, I you can well understand, I was catching snakes. I was catching snakes. I was not having any formal training, but very instinctively I was catching snakes. And if I was present in a situation when a villager would kill a snake, I would somehow or the other try to shoo off the snake, intervene, and I would try my level best, being a child, so as to not to create a situation where the snake would get killed. But this information and this fact that I am dealing with snakes, my parents came to know. So when my parents came to know, they were not very happy. My father was an engineer, and my mother was a school teacher. So they were from a very formal sort of an environment, a very typical urban setup. So the son going and catching snakes and interacting with snakes, this was something which they did not like. Okay, but somehow I used to go to my with my grandparents to the farmhouse, and I used to secretly indulge into my habit of seeing snakes, observing snakes, and all without my parents knowing it. So later on, when in school we there was a juncture when we had to decide that we have to now go in for bioscience or mathematics. We call this to be the additional subjects. So I always wanted to take biology as my additional subject. But my father, being an engineer, was working with the Ministry of Defense, and he had an engineering background. And more so, knowing that I am so fond of snakes, somehow I was not allowed to study bioscience. So I studied physics. In my graduation days, also I continued studying physics, because physics is also a subject which I loved, which I like. Later on, after graduation, I did my postgraduate in international business from Indian Institute of Foreign Trade, IFT, the Kolkata campus, and I was well placed with a multinational company, working there and earning decently. But somehow, this is a point which I would like to highlight on this platform. If there is a genuine love for something in our heart, in our mind, and all, then that is something which you cannot subdue, which you cannot undermine for the rest of your life. Because the love for snakes, and to do something to stop the killing of snakes, as well as the human beings who are getting bitten by snakes, this was something which was there in me. But to prove myself to be very practical, quote unquote, I would say that I'm earning a decent living, and then earning good for myself. I was doing the job, but that void, that gap was inside me, which I identified while doing the job. Now what happened? The job gave me one advantage. I was financially independent, and I could actually move around. I had the liberty of moving around to various places, not just in West Bengal, outside West Bengal and outside the country. I visited. I found that more or less the human and the snake conflict situation is more or less very similar across all the continents. You go to Africa. I have been to Africa. I've been to the Americas. I've been to the Southeast Asian countries of like Malaysia, Vietnam, and all. I have been to Australia. So all these places, the human snake conflict was in a very similar at a similar level. The humans were afraid of snakes, and I'm sure the snakes were also afraid of the humans, right? So now while doing the job, I was financially independent. That's one. I started contemplating. I started thinking seriously about as to what possibly I can do to translate my passion of working with snakes into my profession. So to be very precise, I started thinking about this way back in the year 2010-11. But a domain in which I was thinking of making my profession, this was such a domain whereby you don't get much people working with it. So I was not getting much information, much support. Forget about my parents. They knew that I'm working on something like this at the back of my mind, but I was financially independent. I was a grown-up person now. I was earning for myself, so they did not have much control on me. Okay, so what happened eventually was that in 2015, finally, I formed Monosha Biotech. So why Monosha? Monosha, if you know, is the mythological goddess of snakes. In Indian culture, Monosha is the mythological goddess of snakes. And if you have heard about a place called the Sundarbans, which is a mangrove forest and it's a heritage property. In Sundarbans, the Monosha goddess is worshipped extensively. Not just in the Sundarbans, in the tribal areas, if you move around in and around West Bengal, you will find that in the tribal areas, Monosha Devi is worshipped. Now, I have extensively worked with the tribals, the traditional snake charmers, and the tribal societies. One thing which I found is that again there's a logic behind why the tribal people were worshipping Monosha Devi, because when a snake bites, the person dies, and you don't have access to proper health care, whereby you know for sure that the snake bite victim would be saved. You don't have any other resort but to go to God and ask for mercy. So that's where in the tribal community, Monosha Devi, the goddess Monosha comes in. Because whenever there's a snake bite, I have seen in the villages, they would start praying to Monosha Devi. They would take the victim to Monosha Mandir and they would pray for the life. So this is a backdrop about me doing what I'm doing today, and the name Monosha Biotech. Now, eventually, 2015-16, what happened was that things started taking shape. And I could actually sensitize the various pertinent departments that yes, snake bite is a major problem in India, and this has to be taken a cognizance of so that this can be actually tackled. Now, I also got an insight about a very, I would say, a vicious cycle, which I wanted to translate into a virtuous cycle. The cycle goes like this. As I said at the very beginning of my discussion, that however hard we try, the villager who has lost his family member to snake bite would hold a grudge against snakes and would kill the snake. So I thought that can we create a situation, an ecosystem whereby a snake bite happens, but the person doesn't die. There's proper treatment available, and this person, in spite of getting bitten by a snake, comes back home healthy, fit, and fine. Now, if we can establish such a cycle, then possibly one day would come when people, the villagers who are holding grudge against snakes, would slowly and steadily subside. It would go down, right? And that would be a time when villagers would think, okay, fine. Now, even if there's a snake bite, there's no death associated with the snake bite. So let's not kill the snakes. Let's not be after the life of the snakes. So Monosha Biotech is basically a platform whereby we are keeping venomous snakes. You can see in my backdrop. It is not, I don't know whether it's properly visible or not. In the backdrop, if you see, there are boxes, right? In all those, you will find venomous snakes. The vipers are there, the cobras are there, right? And this environment which you are seeing, this is absolutely a controlled environment. The temperature, the air condition is running, the humidity is maintained at a particular desired level. There's an air purifier which is inside, right? Because each and every snake has a typical requirement for humidity, climatic conditions. So inside the serpentarium, we call this to be the serpentarium where the serpents are staying. We try to replicate the way they are staying in nature to give them the best possible environment, right? And here, this is the place where we do a lot of study on snakes. One, we extract the venom. Now, let me give you a very interesting part of the entire story. Do you know how anti-venom is made? I want a response from the team. Anybody knows how anti-venom? Anti-venom is what? when a person suffers from a snake bite, the anti-venom injections are given. Can
Actually,
yeah,
uncle, I think the antivenom is created with the venom itself.
very right. Who is this?
Shaunak.
Shaunak, you're very right. Anti-venom can only be made using snake venom. There's no other choice. There's no other material which is required. What is done is that the venom is extracted from the snakes, and that venom is then put in the blood of a horse, of an animal, a big animal, maybe a horse. Why the horse? Because understand the thing, and that doesn't harm the horse to that an extent. Let's say 1 minute our on an average human weighs somewhere around 65, 70, 75 kilos, whereas the horse body weight is far higher than that of a human. So if say, let's say X amount of venom is enough to kill a human being, but that same X amount of venom, when it is diluted even further, it doesn't kill a horse. Okay, so it goes inside the horse. Okay, I'm seeing one thing. There are a lot of questions which are coming in the chat box. How is the poison get removed from the snake? I'll answer all these things, but one by one, I'm taking a note of all these questions. I'll answer all of this. So the thing is that the venom is diluted, and then in very small and minute dosage, the venom is put in the horse's body. Now, you know one thing, our body, our animal body is created by Mother Nature, is programmed by Mother Nature in such a manner that if there is a foreign thing which is injected in the body, immediately what happens is that the body, the animal body, the human body, there's a reaction, and the reaction gives rise to antibodies. The antibodies which would be working to clear off the foreign bodies which have entered our human system. Even if it is a virus, it's a bacteria which gets into a animal body, the animal body immediately creates antibodies. So when the snake venom in a diluted form is introduced in the horse body, the horse blood also creates antibodies to fight against the snake venom. Now, I would not go much into the details. You can get all these things on Google. You can, oh yes, I can go a bit slow. I'm so sorry. I'm going a bit fast. I know somebody writes me. I'm so sorry. I'll bring down the pace. So what happens is that when this blood of the horse is now having antibodies, which is working against the snake venom, that blood is actually collected, purified, and that very blood is used as anti-venom. So then, when a later point of time a human being gets bitten by a snake, the ready antibodies which are present in the horse blood and has been purified and has been made into an anti-venom is injected into the human body. So the human body does not really have to create the antibodies against the snake venom, the venom which has entered the human body after the person has been bitten, but the ready-made antibody in the form of the anti-venom from the horse's blood is introduced. So that anti-venom works inside the human body and neutralizes the venom. So this is
Uncle, what is anti-ban something you told?
anti-venom.
Yeah.
Anti-venom is something which is used to treat snake bites. If there's a snake bite, the snake poison, the snake venom goes inside the human body. So
Yeah.
once the anti-venom is given in the human body, that anti-venom neutralizes the effect of the venom. Okay?
If we put that, we won't die.
No, anti-venom if you put inside the human body, if you are having venom inside, when a person is getting bitten by a snake, there's venom inside the human body. Okay?
Yeah.
Now, once that venom is running free into your body and then the anti-venom is given, that anti-venom counteracts with the venom
Okay.
and destroys the lethal or the potent effect of the venom. And
Okay.
that's how the human is saved.
And one more thing, you told something like a horse something. That one I didn't understood.
Horse?
Yeah.
Horse, yeah. What I meant by the horse is that, as somebody very rightly said, Shaunak, I think he said that the anti-venom is used to kill the effect of the venom. Okay. Now,
Okay.
how is the anti-venom made? Antivenom can only be made with snake venom. So in the facility which you're seeing at my backdrop, there we are having snakes, whereby we take out the venom of the snakes in a very non-invasive manner. We make the snake bite a small cup, a glass cup, a sterile
Yeah,
cup.
I've
And
seen that videos.
you have seen
Yeah,
that? Great. So once that venom comes out, this is exactly what we do in this facility. So the venom comes out, and that venom is given to the pharmaceutical companies, who in turn inject small doses of that venom into the horse's body. So the moment the horse is getting injected with the snake venom, the horse blood develops antibodies which can actually work against the venom which has been introduced into the horse. Now the pharmaceutical companies, what they do is that they take out the horse's blood in small amount, purify that blood, and that blood which is having the ready-made antibody against the snake venom is used as antivenom. Am I clear?
Okay.
Right.
yeah.
Now, somebody asked me a question that does the antivenom is the antivenom harmful to the human body? Yes, the antivenom would be harmful to the human body if, let's say, there's venom inside and then the antivenom is given, then the antivenom goes and counteracts the venom, destroys the lethal effect of the venom. But otherwise, the antivenom, if just, I'm sure antivenoms are all given in registered hospitals. You cannot go and buy a antivenom injection over the counter. It is not possible. It is only given in recognized hospitals, right? So in a recognized hospital, the doctors, when they give the antivenom, they also know that what dosage has to be given. You cannot give an antivenom suddenly in a huge dose, because at the end of the day, if you give antivenom suddenly to the snakebite victim, suddenly in a small span of time, a lot of antivenom, then there can be a shock, because the antivenom is also foreign body to a human body. So the doctors are the best judge. They know how much antivenom to be given and in what dosage, right, and over what span of time, right? So this is about venom and antivenom. Now I would be, it's almost about half an hour, so I would be opening up to questions if you have any. I can see some questions. Does that give, okay, let me, Yusra, I'll take you. There are some questions in the chat box. So let me first take the questions. Uh, yes, how is the poison get removed from the snake? Yeah, this is the first question from Mishti Sanghania. Mishti, I would say that the snake is actually, in a very careful manner, we get hold of the head of the snake, right? Now, when I say this, I would say that I am a trained person. I have traveled across the continents learning how to handle snakes, right? Starting from Australia, USA, Africa, Southeast Asian countries. And this has been my profession. So it is a very, very, very dangerous and risky job. You can well understand, to catch the head of a snake. So we at Monosha Biotech, we are trained professionals. We catch the head of the snake and we make it bite voluntarily on a sterile glass piece. And the moment the snake bites, the venom comes out. And then that venom is collected and that venom is preserved in a very scientific manner so that the potency of the venom is retained. That answers the first question, that how is the poison get removed. Achha, I would like to rectify one thing. There's a difference between poison and venom. When we are discussing about poison and venom and venomous snakes, I think this is imperative to actually mention this out here. Uh, Let me not go into too much of details, but poison is something when as a human we consume, we die. That is poison. And venom is something which when injected in our body, we die. So there's a difference between poison and venom. Okay. Now, does
So
the
Saurabh, is the difference of venom and poison is only about how we take it? Like poison is orally taken and venom is injected in the skin. Is that the difference?
Yeah, I'll tell you, Pradeep. The thing is that venom, the snake venom, is basically a combination of protein. Okay, this is basically a combination of protein. So if you talk from the scientific perspective, uh, if there is, let's say, if somebody takes, well, while working also with a lot of precaution, what happens is that at times we have venom on our hands. Okay, but we wear protective gloves and all, protective surgical gloves and all. We ensure that but if accidentally the venom comes to my hand, and if there's a cut, let's say if there's a small cut, and then the venom gets injected into my body, that can be lethal for me. Okay, now coming back to the point of venom and poison. Poison, let's say poison, potassium cyanide. Potassium cyanide is a poison. If we consume, we are going to die. But if we talk about venom, theoretically, if we consume venom and we do not have any cuts or ulcerations in our gastrointestinal tract, then nothing is going to happen. Theoretically, nothing should happen. Whereas if you take, if somebody consumes potassium cyanide, that can kill a person, or any poison as a matter of fact. So venom is something which kills us if we get bitten, and poison is something which kills us if we bite that. Okay, because there are many frogs which are not venomous, but they're poisonous. This would clarify the situation even better. How? Because those poisonous frogs, they do not have the ability to bite a person or inject the venom. They have venom on their skin, right? That is a defense mechanism. Let's say an animal wants to kill that frog, and the animal, with the motive to kill the frog, bites that frog. Then the skin of the frog would be shedding that poison. And once that poison gets into that animal which was trying to kill that frog, that would be very painful, and it can even lead to death. Whereas for a venomous snake, if an animal tries to kill a venomous snake, the poison would not go directly into that animal, into that predatory animal, until and unless the snake bites that animal. So this is basically the difference between the venom and poison. I'll go to the next question. Does that give any kind of disability to the horse? Not really. Because for more than 100 years, anti-venom across the world is being made in this manner, the manner I have given the details. I've given some idea, I would say, not the details. So, because you know of people who make blood donation, we have also donated blood, right? If you consider the entire volume of blood in our human body, a small amount of blood taken for a good purpose does not really do harm to us. Blood gets regenerated. In the case of a horse also, the blood with the antibodies inside, what is taken out from the horse is absolutely okay. The medical team, the veterinarians, the doctors, they know how much to take and how much not to take. And more so, the venom, when given into the horse blood, it is given in such a low dose, it does not kill the horse. Neither does it do any harm to the horse. It's enough to create the antibody in the blood of the horse. Now, if a small, I'll ask a question to the forum right now. Let's say if we come to know of a situation that by giving a small amount of venom over a long span of time, 5, 10, 15 years, the horse might feel a bit sick. We don't know. This has not been established, but we don't know. But right now, do we have any other method of making anti-venom? The answer is no. So if we think that, okay, fine, we are not going to inject venom into the horse to make anti-venom, but then think of a situation when there's a snake bite, when my friend, my relative, or somebody in my known circle or in the villages gets bitten by a snake. What is the treatment? There's no treatment. The treatment is only in the form of anti-venom, and which till date for the last 100 years have been made using the same process I have mentioned right now. Yes, there are scientific communities, there are research organizations who are trying to develop anti-venom whereby a host animal would possibly not be required. If someday scientists make a breakthrough of to make anti-venom whereby the host animal like a horse is not required, then that day we would not require the horses. But till date, horses are required. A host animal is required. I have another question. What if we give antivenom to a human without there being a poisonous snake bite? Yes, I answer this. This is not desired. You cannot do that. That is absolutely bad, and that's possible. That is possibly going to be very, very detrimental and harmful for the human being. That would be very, very harmful. The next question I have, but if we think there's a poison and there isn't, then what is a job called? What is a job called? Yusra, you asked me this. What is the job called? My job. Uh, my job is called. I am a professional venom extractor. I would call myself to be like this. I am called a professional venom extractor who extract venom. And let me tell you, this is another insight which I have developed while working with venomous snakes and venom. Venom, most of the people, when they think about venomous snakes and venom, the first thing which comes to their mind is that venom kills. But for us, working at Monosha Biotech, venom saves. Because if we are actually not extracting this venom, anti-venom would not be made. And if anti-venom is not made, if a poor villager or any person, as a matter of fact, gets bitten by a snake, there is no medicine available. So at Monosha Biotech, we basically risk our lives to extract the venom so that other lives can be saved. And let me tell you, venom is not just used to make anti-venom. If you go and give a Google search about venom, you will find that, as I mentioned, that venom is a cocktail of protein, various proteins. So this venom is also used for the research and development of other life-saving drugs. There's an established drug in the market called captopril that is used when somebody is having some problem with the heart. Many people use captopril. That has been derived from snake venom. So somebody like me must have derived that venom, and some scientific community had done some research and development on finding the therapeutic potential of snake venom. And that has actually saved many lives. That is saving many lives. So venom does not always kill, it saves also. How much time does one have after a snake bite by which the treatment must be administered? A very relevant question from Atul Srivastav. We say that whenever there is a snake bite, the treatment should begin at the earliest. At the earliest, right? And now this is at the earliest means if somebody is bitten, the treatment should begin at the earliest means at the earliest. Because there's no point in delaying. The more you delay, the situation can aggravate even further. Because once, let's say, a snake bites in the hand, the venom does not stay in the hand, it keeps on circulating throughout the body. And it goes and affects the various organs inside our bodies. Right? So the earlier we can go and seek medical attention, the better it is for us. So do not waste time, do not delay any further the moment there is a snake bite. How to tell a snake from a non-venomous one?
Yes, Saurabh, in this case, yeah,
Yeah, go ahead.
go ahead.
Yeah, so just a follow-up question on that, Saurabh. Like we've seen in those old Hindi movies, when somebody gets bit by the snake on the leg, then the hero or the they will tie the leg.
Atul, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah, Atul, I got your question.
Yeah, so what we will do is we can take snakes and bites related questions little later. Can we come back to his journey primarily as a venom extract or the expert? How there are various aspects to your profession, like after physics, how did you come to become a venom extractor, if I can call you your profession?
Yes, you can call me. Please, you're free to call me.
How do you find more people in your profession? How do your parents now look at the one, initially you said that, there was an objection to it. How do you improve in or whatever? How do you learn in your profession that, some things, and then so if you can little more take care of that, and possibly there are a couple of more on on venom and extract and the poison. We can take that as a little later, once we are done with your journey, kind of thing. Atul is also talking about employees, what you have, and what are the other different services you do, and is your business profitable? I think so. So can we check up some of these questions related to your profession?
I'll do that. I'll right away do that. Right now, my parents are still in the same frame of mind, but they feel a bit better because now they have realized that my passion for snakes is actually saving many lives. So that gives them some solace. But my parents, my wife, my close family members, my friends are still, what do I say? They're not very comfortable when I'm working with snakes because they know that any point of time there can be a snake bite, right? And yeah, this is definitely a very hard fact of our profession. When we enter this room, which is having venomous snakes, or we work with venomous snakes, we know when we take care of the venomous snakes on a daily basis because we have to feed them, right? We have to clean their boxes, we have to maintain total hygiene. So each and every juncture, we are coming in close proximity with the snakes. So, and people who are close to me, my friends and relatives, they are very well aware of this. Okay. So whenever I meet them, whenever I talk to them, the first thing over the phone or in person, or the last thing is the see, you are doing a very risky job. Do take care of yourself. Huh? So this is one statement which comes out every time, right? And I consider their attitude to be very normal because they know that this sort of things happen. Now, talking about my journey, in spite of knowing all these things, why did I come into this? See, I realized, as I told at the very beginning, I realized that somebody or the other has to do this job. Somebody or the other has to do this job. Now, I find my father was working with the Ministry of Defense. So I have seen the army personnel from a very close quarter. I've interacted with them. I actually derive a lot of motivation from them. Now, if somebody asks me a question that sort of, why do you risk your life, catch snakes and take out venom so that some other lives can be saved? I ask them a counter question that what is the motivation and the inspiration of our army personnel sacrificing their comfortable life in the homes and the coziness of their families and spending their lives in borders and in the Siachen glaciers where we cannot even think of sitting out here. What sort of non-conducive environment prevails out there? Why do they do that? I ask them this question so that you and me as normal citizens, we can live here in peace. Because if our borders are protected, we as civilians, we stay in peace. If nobody is ready to take the risk of going into joining the army, then just think of a situation what would happen to our country. You and me would possibly not be talking on this platform in such a composed, cool manner. There would have been disturbances. And why go to the army people? Even talk about the police job, the police personnel. They also do a risky job. And so risk appetite is something which was there ingrained in me. And I feel blessed. I feel blessed to be doing a job which gives me a daily reminder dosage of mortality. This is something which I feel that I also know that when I'm working with venomous snakes, it's a risk. But that gives me a reminder dosage of mortality. At times, you know what? We are so well placed in our profession, in our family life, we forget about the very fact that we are all mortals. But my job does not allow me to think for a moment that we have overcome death. No, death is an integral part of my job. And my family members are okay with that. I take a lot of inspiration from the army personnel, as I very say. I interact with them and I derive a lot of inspiration from them. And my journey, yes, I felt that somebody had to do this. Because if you talk about venom extraction as a profession, globally, I'm talking about the entire world, there would hardly be 19 to 20 people like me.
Oh my.
And we are a very close-knit community. I have worked with most of the countries I work with. They know me, I know them, and we interact with each other. And the question which you asked, that how we make ourselves, how we develop our skills on a daily basis. Yes, if you talk about me as a person, in India, we get a particular set of venomous snakes. But if you talk about most of the venomous snakes on this planet, I have worked with almost all of them, starting from the United States, the American continent, Africa, Australia, Southeast Asia, and all. Now, this is exactly, I have done this deliberately. By the time we were formally setting up Monosha Biotech, prior to that, I did this because different snakes have different nature of movement, right? If you have heard about the Russell's viper, a snake viper which is found in, very much in India, almost all over India. And then we have heard about the cobras, the ones with the hoods on, right? So the cobras and the vipers both are snakes, but they have very different way of movement. They have very different way of striking. So the more we actually interact with the snakes, observe them closely, the better we know about them. And let me share another experience of mine. This is again an insight that when we catch snakes, many people ask me that Saurabh, why don't you take protective gloves and all and then you catch snakes? Possibly this is one question which comes to many people's mind. That why is it that Saurabh and people like Saurabh who are working with snakes and especially extracting venom work with bare hands? The answer is very simple. I would try to make you understand this by giving you a metaphor. Let's say I give you a thread and a needle, and I ask you that you put the thread inside the needle. You would be able to do it. Now I'll give you a situation. I give you the thread and the needle, and then I tell you, I give you a wicket keeper gloves. You wear the wicket keeper gloves, and then you try to put the thread in the needle. Would you be able to do it? It would be very, very difficult because once we put on the gloves, we lose the dexterity. We call this dexterity. The touch feel dexterity is lost, right? So I would rather say that wearing a gloves and then catching a snake, it makes our job even more difficult. Because when we are catching a snake, right, from the very body movement, this comes from experience of handling snakes. From the very movement, we can make out that how is the snake's behavior today, whether it is agitated, whether it is a bit cool, what it is. Or by catching the snake, we can make out whether it's going to turn towards our side and strike or it's going to go away. So if the glove barrier is there, we would not be able to gauge that. And if we are not being able to anticipate the snake's movement, we are dead. Right? So,
Yeah, so Saurabh, I wanted to, I'll take, there are a couple of more questions which Atul has put up about the business. I just wanted to ask you, so you had interest in snakes, and you said it was your
I
passion.
still have, I don't
No, no,
have,
sorry.
I
Yeah,
still have
sorry.
lot of-
You are passionate about snakes, but you studied physics, and then you said you formed the biotech. So there are two questions. What's the journey from physics to biotech? And if a child or anybody who is just interested in snake, can we just become the venom extractor, or we have to do something to get to in the list of those 20 venom expert in the world?
It's not venom expert. Let me, I'm not a venom
Extractor,
expert.
sorry.
I'm a venom extractor. Yeah.
Sorry,
Venom
yeah,
experts are many.
extractor.
Once we extract the venom, there are many venom experts. But venom extractor are very few in number. I'll answer this question. From physics to venomous snakes, the transition happened in a very smooth manner, I would say. Because as I mentioned in the very beginning, this secret love was there inside me. Right? I was not allowed to marry my girlfriend, right? But I was forced into a marriage with physics, but somehow that love remained. So when that love surfaced out, the transition was very simple. But let me tell you at this juncture, I traveled before. I was, see, in a very informal manner. Since my childhood, I was doing with snakes. I was working with snakes. But when I contemplated 2010, 11, 12 that Monosha Biotech needs to be formed, then I felt that I need to have proper formal training on snake handling. And that's exactly when I started contacting such people like me across the globe. And I feel blessed that they were benevolent enough to ask me and spend a lot of time with them, undertake training under them. And I can say that, yes, I have worked with most such people, and still I am interacting with them to develop our techniques inside, because but each and every day this is learning, and this is not a very formal sort of a subject. Let me tell you, if you go to a college and say I want to become a venom extractor, there's no subject which is available. There no professor would say that I'll make you a venom extractor, this is the syllabus and you have to finish it within 6 months. It's nothing like that. It's not structured. Having said that, let me also tell you the question which Atul asked. This is a very, 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 very regulated sort of a business, because snakes are wildlife protected animals. You are not even allowed to touch a snake without the permit from the government departments. You are not even allowed to touch that, right? The snake is allowed to touch you without any permit. But you are not allowed to touch the snake, right? You need to have a permit. So we have at Monosha Biotech, we have all these permits in place. And this is basically, Atul, about the business perspective which you say, this is basically a B2G domain. We work absolutely with the government entities, because the anti-venom which you get is purchased by the health and family welfare departments of the respective states. Okay, so snake bite is absolutely a government prerogative, right? So our business is absolutely into the B2G domain, right? Whatever we do, whatever we extract venom, it all goes for government consumption.
What is B2G?
I will answer. What is B2G?
Wait, I think so. It is biotech to government.
Oh, you are very correct. You have a good imagination. It's business to government. Yes, Monosha Biotech is a business organization, and G is the government. So there are three such things: B2C, B2B, and B2G. B2G is business to government. So our relationship is primarily with the government.
So you get all your funding from the government?
Yes, initially I would say when the organization was not formed, when we were forming since starting from 2015. In fact, I left my job. Okay, let me tell you this interesting story. In 2016, I left my job, right? And that point of time, my friends and relatives, especially my mother and my mother-in-law, felt that I am completely gone. I am completely insane, right? I cannot risk a family's future, financial future, for doing something which nobody knows how to do it. But still, the conviction inside me was that strong. I left the job. Okay, so that was way back in 2016. I left the job. Now I feel that was a boon in disguise, the decision which I took, because while doing the job and trying to balance with Monosha Biotech, I was doing justice to neither. I was myself feeling divided, right? And if you have to develop something, if you're passionate about something and you're really serious, you have to have 100% focus onto it. That is something which I know, right? Have you heard about a concept called Ikigai?
Have you heard Ikigai?
No.
Ikigai. You know, Ikigai is a Japanese concept we all know possibly. And Ikigai hovers around basically 4 questions. One is that, am I passionate about what I'm doing? Second is that, am I good at what I'm passionate about? The third is that, what I'm doing, is that the world also needs it? And the fourth very important question is that, is the world ready to pay for it? So the first question, I shall remain passionate about snakes. The second question, which I started asking me from 2014, 15, 16 onwards, is that, am I good at it? Because just being passionate would not make me a professional venom extractor, right? That was the time when I got the calling from inside to go and learn from people who have done this for years. That's how I took care of the second question of Ikigai, that whether I'm good or not. I would not claim that I'm good, because this is an evolutionary pathway. I constantly evolve and develop techniques every day. So I am on the pathway. At least I'm on the right track of being good. Third, the third question of Ikigai, the world needs it or not? Yes, the world needs it. The world very much needs it. Because let me tell you, give you a very sad picture. Let me give you a very sad picture now. As per the World Health Organization, snakebite is a neglected tropical disease. Globally, 1 lakh, almost about 1,40,000 people die every year of snake bites.
Corona.
Out of which 50 to 60,000 deaths happen in India alone every year. Are you aware of that?
No.
So unfortunately, we carry the disgraceful stigma of being the snake bite death capital of the world. We are so advanced, we are so evolved in other domains, but see, we still remain the snake bite death capital of the world. Now, if I'm talking about death to the tune of 50, 60,000 in India, let me tell you, 3 to 4 times of the death number are the disability figures, which means a hand gets amputated, a leg gets amputated. Please let us understand one thing, that snake bite is primarily a rural phenomenon. The people who are affected are the farmers, the laborers, the fishermen. They're absolutely at the lowest strata of the society. I'm talking from the financial perspective. So a person losing a hand or a leg is equivalent or worse than death. The entire family is left to stray. So definitely the world needs it. Because if we have the right kind of medicine with what we are doing at Monosha Biotech, that would save many limbs, many lives, many deaths, and many families. And fourth, whether the world is ready to pay for it, yes, the world is paying for it, because this is a very niche domain in which we work. And the price of our offering is not just having the product component of the price, but also they are paying for the price for the risk which we are taking. You know what? As a normal citizen, if you go to buy an insurance plan, you pay a premium. If I go to buy a insurance plan, most of the insurance companies would say no to me because I might die taking the plan immediately. Or they are going to charge me a premium, and the people who are working out here, which is hefty, far higher than a normal citizen. We have this maintenance cost, we have this premium things in place. And yes, the other question which you asked, all these years we were bootstrapped. We had been investing from our own pocket with borrowed money from my savings, from whatever we have earned, right? But yes, seeing the implication of Monosha Biotech and the project, the government has come in. Monosha Biotech is now incubated at IIM Calcutta Innovation Park. We are having the Indian Institute of Chemical Biology Council for Scientific and Industrial Research as our research and development partner. We work very closely with the state governments. You know about the ICMR, Indian Council for Medical Research. In 2019-20, the ICMR had formed a national task force on snakebite research in India. And of the 12 members, they have inducted me as one of the experts. So I am a part of the national task force now. Right. So I was fortunate to meet General Bipin Rawat. You know who General Bipin Rawat is? On 9th February this year, I met him because we are in a very advanced stage of discussion to probably work in very close proximity with the Indian Army also. Because the Army personnel, they face the risk of getting hit by bullets, but they also have the risk of getting bitten by snakes when they are in the jungles and the fronts. So we possibly would be able to do something to work towards this. So now,
So Saurabh, I wanted to go back to you said from physics to biotech, you develop a lot of a skill. So again, two questions. One, you said you developed the skill by working with people, and then you said you need to have a certification. So can you little more talk more about that?
Oh yeah. The thing is that let me tell you, at this very old age, The last year I've got enrolled for a MSc Master's course in Environmental Science. And let me tell you, the good news is that the part 1 I've passed with a first class. The part 2 is awaited, and I think I would be able to do the part 2 also. So I would be an MSc in Environmental Science, which brings me close to the subject in which I'm working. Apart from that, I have got professional certifications as venom extractors from the various countries where I have worked.
Not
Right?
from India?
No, in India you don't get this qualification. I mean,
Okay.
if you want to become a venom extractor professional qualification, you don't get in India.
Okay.
Okay,
And
so
and you do that by going to a university or by working with a person?
No. I get that by working with individual institutions like Monosha Biotech. There are organizations worldwide also who are working in the domain of venom extraction. So these people, they have been given the authority by their respective governments to actually give professional certifications and certifications of merit to people like me. Okay, and it is not just about venom extraction. Let me tell you, we have got a lot of back-end work. The back-end work, if you see at the backdrop, we have to take care of the needs of the snakes. So that is also a job by itself. We call this husbandry techniques. If you have a poultry farm, so you have to take care of chickens. So we have a snake farm. We have to take care of snakes. So in that manner, right? So this is actually a learning curve. No formal university education is available, but yes, if you search on Google about herpetology, herpetology is a study of reptiles and amphibians. Okay, so there are universities who teach formal courses on herpetology. So I would say to the people who are here, because when we were young, we did not have access to so much of information over the internet, right? So now you people have, you can leverage that, and more so if somebody wants to come and become and risk their life of becoming a professional venom extractor, so they can go and convince their parents to allow them to go in for a subject called herpetology. Herpetology is taught in many schools and universities. In India, possibly, I don't know. In India, no formal education on herpetology is available. But yes,
But
nowadays,
they can work with you. They can work with people like you in India.
yeah, that would be my pleasure, because you know what, I like interacting with children. I go back to my past, and when this platform thing came to me, the Arohi platform, I was so excited, because when I used to go to the zoos and I would ask questions about snakes, there was not a single person to answer me questions on snakes. The snakes were lying in the cage, and they were lying, they were sleeping, they were half dead, they were alive. I did not know. I had so many questions, but nobody was there to answer. So definitely when people ask, especially the children, they ask me questions about snakes, I am so fascinated. I love that.
Okay, yeah, quite a lot of things, Saurabh. I don't know if I can see some more questions related to snakes coming up. So maybe some of the people who still would like to know more about snake can stay with you in this call.
I would actually have to take a leave from you at this juncture. Right. I am open to such a session at a later point of time, maybe, but
Sure.
not today, because I have some commitments. It's 12
Okay.
now.
So yeah, we have a nature club where a couple of kids would like to pounce on you and extract things
Allowed.
from you, to extract the passion out of you, and then insert in themselves to create more antibodies. I hope
Yes.
I'm
Oh yes.
speaking
Oh
the
yes.
snake
It's
language.
such a vast domain. Let me tell one thing before I finally close down. This is such a vast domain of the snakes and venom, and there's a lot of things which can be done on this. Lot of research, right? We do not have much understanding about how snakes live across the world. Recently, I have actually got an invitation. So once the corona things goes off, I shall possibly flying off for around 7 to 10 days to the Amazons, to South America, to work with some very eminent personalities out there. So they are doing some very exemplary work on snake behavior, because our objective is not to mitigate the human snake conflict, but Monosha Biotech always aspires to create an environment where human and snakes would be harmoniously coexisting. There's no conflict. Let's eradicate this word of conflict from our mind. It's not conflict. We are created by Mother Nature. Snakes are created by Mother Nature with their set of ikigais to eat rats, save us. So let our ikigais get married to the ikigais of snakes, and let's have a harmonious coexistence, no conflict. So in order to do that, we have to have a better understanding about how snakes live, how do the snakes stay, what is their nature during the winters, summers, and the monsoons. Because let me tell you, monsoons are the times when the maximum number of snake bites happen. So we want to get a better insight, and the better insight we get, we'll be able to disseminate that among the people, so that that would be useful information to them in their hands, and they can use them in their daily lives to mitigate the snake bite burden.
So, Saurabh, there are a couple of more questions. Have you bitten by a snake? Have the snakes escaped? Can you show us some snake? So, surely we would like you to come back to our nature club. We have once in a week. We can meet whenever it's convenient to you. We would definitely like to have some more, not some more, a little more time with you. And
Always.
and know more all your stories behind, and even know more about the thing. And I think Atul is summing up this call by saying, I love the concept of ikigai. Okay, yeah, Atul, yeah.
Thank you.
And I'm sure your passion will rub on some of us, some of the children, and some of the people who are here in this call are.
It's not about, I'm sorry to interrupt, it's not about my passion, yes, about snakes. But my point is that we should never, as parents or as seniors or as members of the family, we should never try to undermine the passion a kid has. I mean, this is something which is very, very important. I was a very obstinate and a bad sort of a boy when I was a child, right? I never used to listen to my parents, right? And I'm not telling this to be good, bad, ugly. That was me. That was the way Mother Nature created me. But had I been a very good and a yes, ma, yes, baba sort of a person, then possibly I would not have been able to create monosabiotic today. That is a fact. That is a fact. That is a fact. How this platform takes it, I don't know. But I'm letting you know a piece of my heart. I mean, I said, whenever somebody says that no, you cannot work with snakes, the immediate question is why I cannot work with snakes. Now my whys start.
Yeah.
So we should nurture this whys and the hows. Please be inquisitive, right? And do not let anything die off. And try to figure out, staying within a civilized ambit, that yes, what can be worked and what cannot be worked. I'm sure my parents and today's parents' generations are far more progressive. They actually accommodate such thoughts that you do not have to just be an engineer or a doctor or maybe a school teacher. There are professions beyond that also. And professions, and you know what? The funding which we have received from the government, this is because of the fact Monosha Biotech has been given the adjective of a social enterprise. We are a startup, we are an organization which is having a big social impact. So the funding has come to us from the government because we fall in the social category. So try to figure out where your passion lies. That is very important, and nurture that.
Thank you. Thanks, Saurabh. I think you've summed it up. I don't need to sum up. We can just pause this session with lots of more questions about this profession as well as about the snake. And one of us, like Vimal is saying the timing. So Vimal or anybody who would like to take this lead, you can take details from Sabha and you can connect with Saurabh, and then we can have more sessions with him, and he can join our thing. And yeah, so thanks
I'm
a
always
lot.
open to this Nature's Club thing. Any point of time, if my time coincides with the time which you are contemplating or planning, I'm there with the Nature's Club. I would love to interact.
Thanks. That's encouraging. Thanks, Saurabh. Yeah, thanks a lot.
Can I take a leave, please? No?
Yes, sure.
Yes.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thanks
Thanks a lot. We are welcome to Nature Club. You can come.
Okay, so I just wanted to ask others who are there. I'm sure you have. There are a couple of questions which you have put on the chat, and then you still have some more questions. So if somebody from the Nature Club would like to volunteer to follow up, where is the? Yeah, where am I?
I would like to
Follow up with who's that? Yusra, you are there?
Yeah.
Is this Yusra? Okay. So Yusra, would you like to? Okay, yeah. So we can see that people have lots of questions. So you can connect with him, organize more sessions with him, and then we can talk
Saurabh
more
uncle.
about. Saurav uncle has left, beta. Yeah. Can you contact Saurav uncle and
Yeah, yeah.
invite him to nature club?
Yeah.
And if the nature club time doesn't suits him, maybe any other time, and then you can change the nature club time. You can connect with nature club. You can coordinate. Is that what you can do, Yusra? Yeah.
Yeah.
And if you need any help, you can ask any one of us to help you. Yep. Yep. Okay, thank you
Bye.
everyone. Bye bye. Hope to go with your snaky questions back. Bye bye. Oh, there's a cooking club. Okay, then I can leave, but I can't see any. I can't see a host for cooking club here. Shanak, are you here in the call, or can I just close the meeting now?